I think just by looking at the text itself, quantitative. Quantitative is what? This would be about the numbers, right? And qualitative, this would be not about numbers, but something related to quality of particular thing, right? Or let's say it's like a non-quantifiable data in a way. Okay. You're, for example, in a way, this is, I had attended one design talk in last month in September. I had attended a design talk. There I happened to meet HDFC design head. Okay, design head of HDFC bank. Okay, so and audience were asking him questions like why the banking app websites and all are very bad user having very bad user experience, and why don't you change it and all of those things. So what did he said now? So he said like whatever we ship, okay, whatever we ship, our marketing and sales team is so good that they always come up with the better data, like with the quantitative data. They always come up with the better data because इतने सारे क्रेडिट कार्ड हो गए, इतने सारे क्रेडिट कार्ड हमने लॉन्च कर दिए, और वी गॉट दिस मेनी यूजर्स ऑन आवर प्लेटफॉर्म, and these many new accounts has been open and all of those things, and these numbers are so high, there is no rational for the design head to ask for, okay, we need to change the system. And any change in a banking sector, in a way, let's say if you are say thinking about a website, let's say any change on these things is, it's like a risk in for the company also, right? So there is this particular jungling between the quantitative and qualitative. Like in banking sector, they are not giving uh, any weightage to the quantity to the qualitative data. The qualitative data is like people are thinking like this banking app एकदम बकवास है, use करने का मन भी नहीं करता. Something is broken on the page, and servers are slow and all of those things, right? This will you will get in the qualitative usability testing. But your quantitative testing or the quantitative data is, if it is much higher, then there is a very less scope for the qualitative that we uh, experience in Amazon itself. Like whatever Amazon come up with, in a way, our marketing team, sales team is so good that we always get the good numbers in a way. But as a UX designer, it's our responsibility that we should carry out the qualitative usability testing and should provide the insights of user, like comparing our website on the non-tangible things. Go through the text itself. Quantitative, it measures users' performance on a given task, such as a percentage of users who completed a given task. Okay, this is very much quantitative, right? Like how many users can complete a task within certain time. Okay, let's say in Amazon checkout process. So we get a particular number, and then we get to know, okay, सब लोगों ने, most of the लोगों ने 8 मिनट के अंदर कर दिया, या 5 मिनट के अंदर ये कर दिया, or whatever that would be a bell curve and all of those things. Usually our PM gives us this particular data with the developers, of course. Okay, so that is more on a quantitative path. Okay, this data basically helps us validate our design decisions, and if there are any usability issues, we can also uh, address those. Okay, results consist of numerical data, statistics, and percentages. Usually, you would see in the company the decisions are actually taken on the quantitative quantitative data is much higher than the qualitative one. Data is indirectly Data is indirectly recorded while participant completes the task. So mostly unmoderated, right? Like in not in person in a way. Let's see the qualitative one. It involves observing user to understand how they experience your product, right? This is more on a subjective manner, right? And why they perform certain actions. Okay, this is like to dig into why behind users action. Okay, ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? Why not this? Why this? Why that? likewise. So you can just imagine observing how users navigate through a new feature on your website, and you can then ask them questions, and so that they will give you their more insights in a way, okay, which will not be in a quantifiable manner. It used to inform design decisions and gain in-depth insights into users' behavior and emotions. Apple company, you also Google also works more on they rely more on the qualitative data, and I think because of that their quantities also tend to increase in a way, because they give value to more about what user thinks and how they are perceiving in a particular thing, rather than l- like kitne what are the numbers in a way. Okay, it's a mix of both. Okay, findings are based on researchers impressions or user comments and feedback. Data is collected by observing user interaction and reactions. Yeah. So whatever user think, whatever they say, whatever they feel, that you basically jot down and create a report in the qualitative usability testing. When to conduct qualitative and quantitative testing? In most scenarios, you could use either qualitative or quantitative testing to collect data, but one will better depending on the task and hand. Yeah, you have to decide based on the problem wise. Okay. क्वांटिटेटिव मेजरिंग यूजर एक्सपीरियंस विद डेटा, Amazon में बहुत क्वांटिटेटिव होता है. If we usually over here calls it as a web lab. So whatever we launch, we do a web lab. Web lab is like comparing, is like a A/B testing. So whatever is the A is the old design, whatever is the B is the new design, and then we get some quantitative data behind it, and that based on that we get some insights also. We need to change this, change that, and based on that we create designs. Quantitative usability testing is a great for this scenarios like measuring user experience with data, because you can measure the time it takes for a participant to complete the task. Like this is the same as we saw. Let's see the example. Let's say you find that only 30% of participants are able to complete the task within 2 minutes. Now you have that data. You can study the heat maps of the journey the user takes to understand what usability issues the user has encountered when trying to complete the task. Like when you say like 30% he are able to complete a task in 2 minutes. Okay, why are not they able to do what happened with the 70% of the user? Why they are not able to do that? You will investigate into that, and then you will basically design something. These are more interesting. This is, I understand now, this is on the more uh, like I cannot give you the practical of this in a way. But when you would join companies like big data companies, you will always have to play with this data, understand this data, and it becomes more uh, it becomes more interesting while you are designing after you know the data. And there it all the data also becomes a rational for your design, whatever you design for in a way. Qualitative user testing enables you to understand the reason why some does something in a product, and research your target audience pain points, opinions, and mental model. As you collect the more qualitative data, you may start to discover trends among user, which you can use to make changes in the next design iterations. Let me think of some example for this. For the qualitative, there's one story I can tell you, but I don't know if it is directly in the qualitative or quantitative, but it's a story of Instagram introducing the stories actually for the first time in their app. Okay, story now we know like it's an integral part of Instagram, but when the Instagram has launched, it was not that case, right? Instagram was more about the images, right? Not that much about the videos in per se, and not about stories. Stories like like a 15-second, 30-second video content that that you would have it in your application. So, when Instagram basically notices that users actually were spending more time on Snapchat story feature, they they basically decided to implement something similar, but they added a twist into that. Okay. Instagram conducted an extensive usability testing. So this is before launching, so they didn't had the data. That's why I'm saying I'm not really sure. They had data, they don't had data. But it was more on a qualitative testing. It was more of a type of a qualitative usability testing. Okay. So they did extensive usability testing that the feature is discoverable in a way. Okay. Once you discover, then only they will use, and then they will basically then there will be more user base for that particular feature, right? So during this testing, Instagram actually found that their users were struggling to locate the story feature, right? And this currently, if you see, WhatsApp is actually struggling for the discoverability of their channel section. Like they have the channels inside the story, but the numbers are not that good for WhatsApp. Okay, so say it was same for same story for the Instagram. Like their users were struggling to find out the story feature, as it was hidden under the icon on the top left corner. Okay, so at that particular time you had to click on an icon, and then you would basically go on to the story mode. Actually, it was also same in the Snapchat as well. Like Snapchat में अभी भी story का अलग section ही है. But in Instagram is a feed, right? Photo feed in a way. And in that there was an icon for the story. Now how it is? Now you know, like it's standardized now. It's like all circles on the top of your top bar, below the title bar. We usually user perceive it as a ये तो story ही रहेगा. Like that's why WhatsApp में भी वैसा है, Instagram में भी वैसा है, and Facebook, like now they are the three same companies itself. But now if you have to add a stories feature in your app, you would put it in the same way, because now this has been a what was the law? Jacob's law, right? User is most used to see that particular thing. So based on this qualitative information, they actually did some changes into their story to make it more discoverable, and that is how now we see that how it has been evolved to the currently the way the stories are presented. Okay. So the qualitative usability testing are very important when you are basically coming up with something new, and when you are launching it, not launching, or you are testing it with some early users. And quantitative is when you basically launch it, and then you with the vast sample size, you basically get some information how users are interacting with your website or application and all of those things. Okay, so both are important. One quantitative I can remember is like the Google had run a test which was called as 41 shades of blue. Okay. This was a huge experiment, very infamous in a way. Like uh, so basically Google wanted to find out which shade of blue, okay, which shade of blue, like the blue button that you see, for sign in, sign up, and all of those things. So it is the story of that particular blue color. Why that blue? Why that hue of the blue? So Google wanted to find out which shade of blue is most effective for their hyperlink text and buttons and all of those things, to in terms of the click through rate. Okay, so whichever in a quantitative manner, whichever hue of blue would get more click through rate, that will win basically. So but instead of guessing, okay, कि कौन सा कलर क्या कलर करे, कौन सा ह्यू करे, क्या उसका हेक्स कोड रहेगा, क्या ब्राइटनेस रहेगा, क्या सैचुरेशन रहेगा, instead of instead of guessing that particular thing, they basically ran a usability test. Okay, which actually they created the 41 different shades of blue, and they publish it, and then they analyze it, which one is getting the more click through rates. Okay. And also usability study shows that there are slight differences in the shade of blue that led to a significant engagement in a way. Okay, so basically that is the one we see, the finalized one, the blue color that we see you Google uses for their all the CTAs, all hyperlinks and all of those things. That is the winner in a way. And that actually resulted in a, because Google is used worldwide, like so many users Google already have. So it is for them, it's $1 million change in a way. So the takeaway from this story is like even a small usability tweaks, like if that is backed up by the usability testing, can have a massive impact on your users' engagement and of course the growth of the company at the bottom. So both of this qualitative and quantitative user testing perform best when users in conjunction with one another. Both are basically can be used.